Thank you, Diana, and thanks to all of our amazing speakers. Thanks a lot for being here. I know that you're all very busy, so thanks for making the time to be here today with us and discuss this very, very important issue or issues connected to the financing of the energy transition. So I have a lot of choice where to start with. I'll probably start from the European Commission. So let's see, which one of the two? So maybe Pierluca. So we have seen that while we have a lot of front-runner cities, we had that in Prospect Plus, we had our mentors who were really, really keen in achieving or pursuing the energy transition, applying also private capital. Most of the cities, Silvia shown, are still a bit frightful to approach some of the instruments. So what is the current or planned European support? What do you have as European Commission in your magic hat to support even more local and regional authorities in this?
Thank you. Let me see if it's work. Yes. Good question. First of all, thank you very much for the invitation. I mean, it's very nice to be here in this setup to discuss about these topics, and to see also the findings, the results, because I think there is a lot of interesting point there, which I will try also to touch. So you ask what the European Commission have. It's clear that the type of instrument that we have available and that we have deployed are a lot. I probably will go directly a bit on probably one of the issues that you encounter when we speak about innovative financing for energy efficiency, but I would enlarge it for, let's say, energy transition at the local level, at the small scale level. And you know that in terms of EU budget support, in this current multi-annual financial framework, the volume of public budget that goes into energy transition have increased around 7 to 8 times, mainly thanks to the RRF. We passed from 20 billion to over 140 billion, only speaking about the EU level and only speak about energy efficiency. And it's clear that from what we have looked at, that the level of national budget investment and private investment have remained stable instead. So it is clear that, yes, we expect that many more projects are being developed on the ground, but probably not with innovative financing instrument. It is also true that here we speak about, let's say, commitment, and maybe Andrzej will speak a bit more about that, but also there is the part of execution that still has mostly to come. When you ask what instrument we have available, there is, I would like to underline that, I mean, how we see it also in terms of strategy, the role of technical assistance, but more specifically of project development assistance, both at the level of single project, but also aggregation of the project pipeline, because we clearly see, and you underline it through the presentation from your side, Giulia, and also from Silvia, that especially if you look at the niche small cities, we cannot expect each public authority to develop the competencies to manage an NPC contract or to the financial engineering that is behind that. And so our focus in that regard is really to try to establish at national level or even a regional level, where it's possible, some technical assistance facilities via ENER. ENER has a mandate to support the establishment, to replicate ENER at a national level. As you know, probably you know, ENER is an advisory facility managed by the EIB on behalf of the Commission, specifically DG ENER and DG Move. And then we have as well, among our, let's say, ENER program, to the Life Clean Energy Transition program, which, and is exactly a bit one of the objectives, I would say, of the program, is to bring the experience, for instance, about this project of the capacity building, to let's say, the calls that are within this program that can support specific project development. So I'm also very much interested if during the peer-to-peer, etc., how much maybe you manage as well to support projects in planning investment as well, because I think that I very much believe on learning by doing. I think that definitely to try the first time to implement, let's say, a more innovative type of instrument is helpful. Last point, looking at the new mandate. So here, let's say I give you a bit of what is currently available and what will continue to be available. You have seen that the Commission have put forward within the, let's say, competitiveness compass, the Clean Industrial Deal and the Affordable Energy Action Plan. And you will notice that within this Affordable Energy Action Plan, there is a strong focus on scaling up the market for energy services, in particular with regard to providing guarantees to allow, for instance, ESCOs, but also possibly other actors to finance more, to invest more, to mobilize more investment. This is still, of course, in the making. It's not directly addressed at cities, but I think it's very important to underline that, I mean, ESCO to develop this project, they need to develop it with somebody. So those type of partnership, probably, also looking at the next MFF, where it's no secret that there will be probably less resource available. Those type of partnership probably is now the moment to be developed in order to benefit in the next years from this type more financial instrument that may be deployed at the EU level. I think I will stop here.
Thanks, Pierluca. Thanks a lot. You already gave so much interesting information that I would have a lot of follow-up questions for all of the speakers, but I'll try to keep then the order I had in mind. Then I would move then to DG Regio, to Andrzej, and to maybe hear also your perspective from a different DG, and to focus not only at the EU level, but also go a bit deeper into member states, also what the national level can do, but especially the regions, and what can regional funds do in this context, especially to overcome some of the barriers we've seen, like the regulatory barriers of the debt cap or other are similar.
Yes, thank you. You see my name. It's important to mention that I represent the Financial Instruments Unit of DG Regio. Regio stands for Regional and Urban Policy. And please also remember that this is the most important spending power of the Commission. In this DG, we administer 1/3 of the EU budget. I also would like to congratulate the organizers for selecting the subject of this event and of the project. I'm pleased to listen that we talk about innovative way of financing public investments. Let's be frank. Financial instruments is not an option anymore. It's simply a necessity. Grants, that still is the most common way of supporting public investments, cannot be the first choice for public institutions. Why? Because there's simply too many needs that we need to support with scarce resources. And I'd like to give a single example of Poland, that is the biggest recipient of the cohesion policy funds. In Poland, according to the available data, the total costs of energy transition is estimated at the level of 350 billion euros, and these are only just a soft, I would say, estimation, whereas the total allocation of ERDF for the 7 years period in this country is only 47 billion. So you see that if you make a simple calculation, that the needs are 7 times higher than the resources available. So this huge disproportion between what is available and what we need to do simply necessitates higher uptake of financial instruments, as this is the only way to go through energy transition to achieve climate neutrality by the deadlines. I also would like to mention that financial instruments offer concrete advantages as compared to the grants. Yeah? First of all, we bring in additional private capital. Secondly, any euro that is paid back could be used and again. So we have the legacy resources that could support similar or another important policy objectives. So now, coming back to a question, direct question, sorry for this little introduction, but I thought it's important. How REGIO is supporting the cities in higher uptake of financial instruments? It was mentioned already today. We provide technical assistance. We also share good, I would even say, best practices. And we also preach the gospel on the benefits of financial instruments as compared to grants. And of course, you can imagine there has been plenty, I would even say thousands, hundreds, thousands of good initiatives, concrete projects, how we support with the cohesion policy resources this type of capacity building or sharing good practices. I would say that in every program, there is a specific financial envelope that is meant to build knowledge, to build know-how on how to do it better. I can give an example that I see a colleague from EIB sitting next to me, that last year, together with the EIB, we launched a specific initiative that is called the Scale Up. So the Scale Up initiative is meant to bring together the best practitioners who know how to tackle the problem of limited appetite of public authorities in using financial instruments. We, together with I mean the European Commission and the European Investment Bank, we try to elaborate, first of all, to analyze the main bottlenecks. Secondly, to elaborate practical solutions that would address these bottlenecks. And you can imagine these bottlenecks are of a various character. Some of them are pure financial, some of them are organizational, but there's a lot of mental barriers, I would say. There's so many knowledge gaps around. People don't know that it's, simply speaking, more beneficial to take a loan quickly and be happy with lower energy bills instead of waiting years collecting this money. During this period, the value of these savings will drop, and it's a pure nonsense from the economic point of view. And we have so many biases and knowledge gaps we need to address. I would like also to mention the Fee Compass website. It's a joint initiative of REGIO and EIB. And the Fee Compass website is a gigantic depository of learning materials for anybody. You have case studies, you have country fishes, specific products that are tailoring concrete problems. You just simply read, inspire, and implement. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrzej, and thanks to both of you, and also for the enthusiasm that it's perceivable in what you do. Let's now move to the Committee of the Regions. And Andries, you have published an opinion last year on how to implement the European Green Deal on the ground. There is, at the moment, the Covenant of Mayors, the Committee of the Regions is developing another opinion, especially on financing and how to support local and regional authorities on that. So if you could a bit elaborate on that and what is the Committee of the Regions doing. And on top of that, I mean, you're here listed as member of the Committee of the Regions, but you are much more than that. So I remember the whole list of your hats. You are also a vice member of the Belgian Senate, if I'm not mistaken, and also member of the Flemish Parliament. So you could also touch upon a bit this multi-level governance aspect and how the different levels can interact amongst each other, because that's also a barrier that maybe what was not mentioned a lot before, but because it's not really visible from the local level, but it is an important one.
Yes, thank you, and thank you also very much for the invitation and for the organization of this event. So yes, my main job is in fact being member of the Flemish Parliament, and from the Flemish Parliament. I am appointed to the Senate, but more important, I'm also appointed to the Committee of the Regions. The Committee of the Regions is, in fact, I don't say it like that, but for me, it's more like an advisory board for the European Union. Better say like that. Yeah? So, if I'm listening to the previous speakers, it's correct. There's a lot of funding possible. There are a lot of different systems possible. There are a lot of experts where you can ask for information, etc., etc., etc. The problem is that in the perception, we as a representative of a region and a city think that we cannot have direct contact with the European Union because there is a level between the member states. And because European Union is always having the discussion and the roundtables with prime ministers, presidents, etc., 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 of member states. And so we feel as a region a little bit like, okay, you're just the second person in the class. And if you compare, for example, Flanders' budget is higher than the federal Belgian budget. So we have a lot of competences, but we have no direct access also to negotiate on the European level. Everything what has to do, for example, for energy efficiency, renewable energy, everything, the grids, is a regional competence in our country. But that's in our country like that. It's not just the case in Germany or in France or in the Netherlands, a little bit in Spain. So each country is in a different way organized. And they have a different governance. And this makes it, of course, difficult then for Europe to make one simple rule which can, in this multi-level, like you said, national member states, then you have your regions. Sometimes you don't have regions, but you have only more like provinces. And then you have your local authorities, which can be big cities, but this can also be very small communities from 6,000 people, but they have also their competence and they have also their responsibility. So, but you see there is a lack between the throughput of information from up to down and from down to up. And that thing is the main issue where we have to work on. And of course, then we have fortunately organizations like today and other organizations who can ameliorate a little bit this discussion. And why is this important? If we talk, for example, about financing, well, in our report, the first problem comes up, capacity building. Capacity building of people who knows what's about financing. What are the possibilities? What are the possibilities if I have to follow the European rules? Because that's the first point. You cannot do just like you wanted to do. No, you have certain rules that you have to follow. Maybe not as a city or a municipality or as a region, but at the end, the member state who has to consolidate all the different budgets of the lower levels has to do it following the European rules. So then it's normal that the member state, for example, Belgium, asks it to the regions, asks it to the cities, asks it to the province if needed, etc., to follow all the same rules so they can make a global budget and accounts which then been discussed with the European Union. So because, and then you feel that, and there are a lot of possibilities. I saw your flyer, and then I saw the energy performance contracts. Of course, it's perfect possible. But you see, it's not working because it seems to be very complex. And, you know, sometimes also complex because of the European rules. Not only because there is no market. Yes, there is a market. Monaco is doing it, Amsterdam is doing it, Paris is doing it, Berlin is doing it, Graz is doing it. They do it already for 20, 25 years. We tried to do it in Flanders, quite difficult because first problem, is it in the budget or outside the budget? First discussion, we have to discuss that with Europe. That's first discussion, because some said, no, it's in the budget. I find it's outside the budget because it's an investment in green transition. Why not? So then you have to understand that the municipality or a city or a region who has, let's just say, less competence and less capacity building, then for them it's very difficult. So they have to do something about this capacity building because this is the first point. And then I think the second point, in fact, like this nice guy from Amersfoort has said in his what you have presented over here, it's about networking. Of course, in networking, you cannot solve everything. It's not like my solution is your solution and your solution is my solution. No, it's not working like that. But you can learn from each other. And that's very important. This networking is very important so that you can listen and learn from others. And I know each region, each city, each member state has its own DNA, has its own problems, etc., etc. So sometimes very difficult to understand. But at the end, one thing remains always, that we have to consume less kilowatt hours, that we have to produce our kilowatt hours as clean as possible. This is the main basic story for everyone. The most difficult story is what we surround, or what we build around, how we can finance it, how we can allocate it, how we can find not only building capacity for finance people, but also building capacity for the skills. We need people with skills, etc. So that's what I mean also with multi-level governance, and it was already my different opinions. And for me, multi-level governance is not only by executing what is coming from top to down, but it's also being involved in the decision-making from down to up.
Thanks a lot, Andries. Thanks also because with this last statement, I think you even strengthened even more the reasons why we're here and why projects like Prospect Plus exist. And also thanks for adding a lot of inputs and complexity also to the discussion. I think that Silvia and her panelists will also appreciate a lot in the second panel. So moving to Bianca. I will not ask you again to list all the instruments that the EIB is offering, because also Pierluca touched upon that, Andrzej as well. Let's change a bit the perspective, as Andries suggested, and go bottom up. So if cities need to start moving more on attracting private financing in order to at least blend with public ones. How can they make themselves more visible or ready to do that? And how is the EIB supporting in doing that?
That's a very good question to start with. First of all, thank you for the invitation and for the event. It's a wonderful event, and you're able to put this topic of innovative financing in cities on the EU agenda at a critical time, ahead of other discussions on the policy agenda for cities. So that's really great timing. And also good timing for us to come from the EIB with some news for cities and new types of support, which I can talk about. I fully agree with my predecessor speakers about the importance of financial instruments, blending between funding, essentially public funding, EU level, national level, with financing. We can do much, much more. I think we are now at 10% on average, but the variation is huge between member states that use very well, and those that don't use maybe at all. So also going at the regional level and at urban level, what can be done. And also on capacity building, there's so much more we can do, and the two are linked. The more we build capacity, the more your cities, your colleagues will be able to feel ready to experiment and take maybe a little risk with our backup support from the EIB and the Commission to explore these financial instruments. So for the EIB, cities are key partners, and this was from the beginning of the establishment of the bank 6 decades ago. Cities continue to be key partners. We have new strategic priorities from last year at the EIB group level, 8 priorities. Half of them have cities at the core. Climate, what we discuss here today, also energy efficiency, sustainable transport, all things related to climate, cities are at the core. We see cities as partners to help implement and deliver the European objectives that we have on this. Also on social infrastructure, affordable housing, to mention one key area, key challenge in cities. We are there as your partner, and we see cities as main actors to deliver, and I'll talk about that in a moment. And also on other areas like circular economy. It is also very key, and cities are at the front of that. So in the last 7 years, we've been allocating quite a lot, 150 billion, to give you a number, in 7 years, just for urban investments, urban loans to cities. This is, if you wish, 40% of the current cohesion funds for 7 years, so it's not little. But that also means that there are many cities that do benefit from EIB support, from the framework loans, from advisory support. There are cities that, come again and again because they they have the experience to working with the EIB, going through the process for maybe 20, 30 years. And I come back to the point you made about good practice exchange. This is so vital, and here is the perfect space with Eurocities and other city networks to learn from what some cities experience, taking loans, blending with grants, doing something different, and making the jump from the grant mindset, you only using grants and depending on new grants, to a financing mindset, setting their investment program. What do I need to invest in the next 3-5 years? Setting a list of priorities and seeing which falls under the grants, which falls under maybe just strict loans or other innovative financing. And this is the exercise to do, but there are cities that do that. We have to learn from them and put that experience to use. For the EIB, because the question at hand is what can we do more to also leverage private capital? There are 3 areas that are crucial. Climate neutrality, and there's this mission of climate neutral cities at EU level. We fully support that from the beginning, first with technical assistance to help cities set up the investment plans. But now we are in the implementation phase. We have set up lending envelopes, so directly targeting just to those cities under the climate neutral mission for 2030. So we have 2 billion euros separated just for them, loans, but on very preferential rates. Already 3 cities have come and they are starting to unlock the financing. Barcelona, Leuven and Porto. 5 others are in the pipeline. There is still more funding, more lending if you are interested. But what's interesting is that we don't just give loans and help. We also give the advisory support. How do you, as a city, can move from the investment plan to bankable projects on the ground within that target, of course, climate neutrality. So we have this advisory facility for those cities, free of charge, and they can benefit from all support there. Second, affordable housing. I mean, these days we talk so much because this is really a core issue also in cities. Last week, the EIB launched a new, we call it one-stop shop online portal, an investment portal, and it's called More Homes, Better Homes. What I want to say is that cities we see them as clear key beneficiaries of that, because it's about how do you access EU funding, finance, and advisory, and how do you benefit from, let's say, the knowledge hub that is created there. And this is a call also for you to come and be our partners in further developing that corner for knowledge hub, know-how exchange, because housing is a local challenge. We need to really have different models and work with private sector in different ways to finance affordable housing. And circular economy, we don't talk so much, but I think it deserves a lot more attention because there's a lot we can do with circular economy at local level. We have a circular city program, a circular city center program, we call it C3, and that is free of charge advisory support to start to help cities develop investment programs with a circular economy focus. Urban regeneration, flood management, everything that can have a circular focus can fit there. And cities can develop projects and the investment program with the EIB support. We start working with Malaga and Turku. So it's in the pipeline. I'll stop there, but there's many more things I could say. It's just that I wanted to use the time to give you something concrete as well, what is new in what is in the pipeline.
Thanks a lot, Bianca. I was not stopping you because, again, all of you are saying very interesting things. I will be a bit stricter in the second round because, unfortunately, time is also a limited resources today. But before we move into the second round, I would like also to ask a question to Anna Maria. Last but not least, of course, we spoke a lot of different instruments. We had a sort of more public perspective. So with you, I would like to go a bit more on the details. And first of all, we saw in the charts that Silvia showed that green bonds was standing there at the very bottom. And one of the issues with green bonds is their volume. So what can smaller local and regional authorities do to reach the volume that is needed from the market? And since you're at it, and you are, let's say, the less public or institutional person here in the panel, what can be the role of private banks or other market actors to support cities and regions?
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me today. After I saw the slide, it was clear why I joined the panel today. But I take it as an opportunity. So it's a big opportunity that green bonds issuance is at the bottom. Possibly it means that cities are not aware of how they can get the benefit out of it. So the technical assistance that all the previous speakers talked about is something that obviously needs to be developed, and it can be done. So I'm the head of EU Affairs of Climate Bonds Initiative. We are a humble NGO. We are devising criteria for every sector of the market. For those that want to issue a green bond. And then there is, through a third-party independent verifiers, a certification scheme by which those who want to issue a green bond aligned to our taxonomy and criteria, then they can have it certified, therefore avoiding greenwashing and then tapping into a wider base of investors. So the volume issue, I'm not so sure that's true. So the Valencias are not going away, the heat waves are not going away, the flooding is not going away, and our urban infrastructure is not up for the task. Yeah, it's not fit for purpose. So there are adaptation and resilience projects that need to be happening and funded and invested in cities, whether larger or smaller. It's just that, yeah, there is not that technical assistance or the capacity in local authorities of how they know how to issue, for example, a green bond. That's certainly one. And for example, we also run a program, a training program, and we have a specific Mediterranean hub training program for cities that are in the Mediterranean. So that's something that, yeah, so the rhetoric or the discourse is that, oh yeah, there is no such volume, but I think there is. Another thing that is super important is that there should be no debt issued by cities, or even they should not even getting any loans unless it's aligned with their infrastructure planning and their financial planning. So these two things should be going together, not just getting either central government or EU cohesion or whatever else it might be, without looking into how this fits with our adaptation, our resilience, infrastructure planning. Yeah.
Thanks. Maybe the last part of the question about the role of private banks and other actors of the market.
Sure, yes.
Yeah,
so the other thing is that development banks or other aggregators can play this role into grouping, pooling together different cities' project needs, and therefore getting the volume that sometimes is needed in order to issue a green bond, and also make it even more interesting for investors. So yeah, and I'm also guessing maybe the EIB could play such a role in the EU.
Okay, thank you very much. I have so many other questions that I would like to ask you, but I think I might break the protocol and try to value also the sixth panelist here, because we have so many representatives of local and regional authorities. Some will be speaking in the second panel, but if you have some questions for our panelists, or even if you have questions amongst yourselves or quick reactions that you would like to address. Otherwise, I have questions.
I'd like to react on, can I?
Please, of course
react
you can.
on Andries' very interesting and important comments on...
I was expecting that.
On having a tailor-made solutions, yeah? And I would like to combine this wish, well, with another aspect that was, in my opinion, not sufficiently outspoken today, that is appropriate communication. communication that is tailor-made to specific needs of a specific country. And I can give you an example, a provocative example from my country, Poland. You may not know, but Poland has a very dirty air, and many people die every year due to air pollution. And in order to tackle the problem, one of the NGOs that is trying to help national authorities to combat this problem made a questionnaire asking people, what is the reason you, Mr. or Mrs. Or argument would make you changing this boiler? I mean, highly polluting coal boiler, because in Poland, you may not know, there are still 3 million approximately boilers fed with coal, you know. And interestingly, they grouped the answers, and on the top position there was savings argument, that I will change if I get a concrete economic benefits. Second was that I will be fined. The third one was that I'm jealous because the neighbor could afford this new technology, and why not me? And I deliberately give this example to you because I think when communicating to the people, we should also know what and use some aspects of behavioral economics, you know. So what drivers, what arguments people take into account when changing their behavior. So have a tailor-made solution when communicating about the needs and the benefits of this or that, let's say, policy objectives. Thank you.
Before you reply, any question from the public? Can I take that? And then Andries, you can... Sorry, we didn't foresee this, so I will come to you.
Hello. Yes, I'm Anna Bayomi. I work for FEANT, the Federation of Homeless Service Providers, who manages mostly shelters, which are really inefficient. But I also work on the topic of energy poverty and the problem of solid fuel heating, which is a very big problem of my country as well, in Hungary, where households heat with firewood mostly. And I think this problem of communication is not only an issue of communication, but it's also an issue of affordability, as you also highlighted in your statement, that people are jealous of their neighbors who can afford heat pumps, but they cannot do so not because they are just simply not wanting to invest it, but they don't have any savings because wages are low in these regions. And I would be interested if in this project there were some initiatives that made sure that by using these very forward-looking financial instruments, also some part of the public funding that were previously spent on higher income groups could finally arrive to households that are in the biggest need of renovations and that cannot access these blended financing mechanisms because of their financial situation, as well as mirror to social service providers that are also doing a crucial service for the most vulnerable but are not accessing public funding streams. So some of these examples would be highly interesting for me, like renovated shelters or other buildings that are providing homes for the poorest. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Maybe I can start to answer as you asked about the project. And to be honest, you know that projects are very focused, and this one was focused on supporting local and regional authorities in applying or trying to apply innovative financing schemes to fund the energy transition. So it was not focusing on energy poverty or on vulnerabilities, but there are many other actions that do exactly only that. And I'm sure that maybe also Christina at the end can give you some examples of other CINEA-funded projects that do exactly that. But this was not exactly the focus of this project. So I don't know if you want to react to that or if you want to go back to the discussion. Yeah, sure, please.
Just very quickly to react to that, actually financial instruments do just that, and we have very good examples, I think Andrzej could also share, from Lithuania, for example, and Portugal. Lithuania has, I think is the third generation of financial instrument for energy efficiency renovation of multi-apartment buildings, the kind of Soviet buildings where it's very difficult to actually make progress. But that's exactly where the state gives subsidies and covers for the, let's say, people in poverty or below the threshold. They cover that for them. They give subsidy, while the other households would get a very preferential loan. And all this is backed through the financial instruments, a combination of EU funds from ERDF, national fund, EIB financing, through different kind of schemes. And the leverage can be between 3 and 5. So you actually have a revolving fund that can be then used for other renovation. Portugal has done that with a focus on municipalities for urban renewal and energy efficiency. So we can share these examples, and exactly that. Those households that cannot afford to take a loan or to cover the expense that's the role of the state, the public funds, to cover that in particular. And just, I wanted to also take the chance to say that for me it was music to my ears to see the barriers to innovative financing. EIB just launched last week an investment report, our annual investment report, and this is exactly the point. Of course, access to funding and financing is difficult, but not as difficult as it used to be years ago. Now the problem is really bureaucracy and lack of expertise and the skills. This is higher on the list. And also, I would add, because it was said already, the complex environment in the EU, where if you are a private sector investor, a big one, you will have to adapt to, I don't know how many, maybe 27 different regimes, and this is why we're talking about adding a 28th regime at EU level, because it's very difficult. It costs money. Huh? For SMEs, we calculated it costs 2.5% of their turnover every year just to adapt to the different legislation, different rules, and consumer protection in every country. We will launch, from the IB, every 2 years we launch a municipalities report. So this will come on 8th of April in an event that you're all invited. But the idea is that every 2 years we look at what do cities' investment needs are and where the bottlenecks are. And they are really here. The technical expertise is lacking. We need to do more to bring the capacity there. Yes, it's skills, it's uncertainty. If the regulatory environment is changing too often, it's very uncertain to invest. But not all is negative. There is progress in digitalization in many cities. Cities are at the forefront of some of the climate investments. And to end on a positive note, 2/3 of the public investments we've seen, the increase in public investments in the last 2 years, was at local regional level. So that is really a plus. So cities are investing thanks to RRF, EU funds, but also from their own state transfers. So we also have good stories to tell.
Thanks, Bianca. And Andries, you had also some.
Yes, I'd like to intervene on the two aspects, the finance aspect and then your aspect. First of all, for the finance aspect, what we are doing in Flanders, we have 3 things that we do at the same time. For the private people, private households, we can have subsidies and loans, and the loans are 0 interest or at a small interest, depending on the level of your income. So for the poorest people, it's 0%, and the higher your income is, then you pay a normal interest, same for subsidies, etc. This is for private households. If you talk about companies, then you're now looking at making a fund together with private banks, so that we have a fund, then the companies can have a cheap loan, if they can say like that, but they have to pay it back up to the moment they have some results. And then for public buildings, we started already 10 years ago with this concept of energy performance contracts, where they're looking for private companies investing in the public buildings. The savings are for them with a bonus and a malus system. What we try to do now is a contract for difference. Contract for difference is, in fact, if I say it like that, who takes the risk? You have a new concept, but you need the finance. So this means that in the first years, you don't have the profit. So this lack of profit can be covered by an insurance of the government, if I can say it like that. But the moment that you are self-sufficient, then this kind of insurance is stopped. There's in fact a contract between two parties. The only issue over there is if you want to do that for strategic priorities or you want to do that for everyone want to invest. This depends how big is your budget. Just say it like that. But they are also, we have just now finished a proof project. They do the same in the Netherlands. They do the same in Germany also. So I think that's about financing. About your tailor-made solutions or not. Indeed, I'm provoking by, or I was a little provocative when I say we have to go from down to up. And I know why, because I know that the solution is between the two. But just imagine, we have at the moment 29 organizations like yours. If you didn't have that kind of organizations, then you were doing something in your level and nothing was going down. So fortunately, we have them, partially sometimes subsidized also by the European Union, to help these cities to find their way to the top, to find how they have to need this capacity building on finance, bring down the policies, etc., etc. So fortunately we have it. And then you have to reflect, if I want to do more, there are two possibilities. Or you say, well, you know, I think that we have to do it from top to down, and it don't matter that it is tailor-made. Or you're looking also to make it more tailor-made, because otherwise maybe we don't need 29 organizations, but maybe we need 100 organizations. Well, I think that's also not the right way to work. So I think that these tailor-made solutions, or let's just say it in other words, it has to be more tailor-made than it is now. That's for me very important. It has not to be tailor-made on the last percentage of course, I know that you have to find this balance. Of course, the European Union has to say, okay, we want to be there in 2050, and 2030 we want to be there, and we want to control it like that. But now we have the feeling that we are restricted in too many rules, like I found out with this energy performance contracts. I know it because I was a chairman of the Vlaamse Energiebedrijf, and I struggled 2 years. And now we have to find a contract between the public buildings and the private entrepreneurs. These are books like that. So the only one who has become richer of that are the lawyers and the lobbyists. But in fact, what we have to do, I want to spend my money, I want to spend my energy, I want to spend my capacity building in doing the business. And this means we have to renovate the buildings. That's our first target.
Thank you, Andries. So before giving maybe the word to where we started from, Andrzej and Pierluca, for a final remark, Anna Maria wanted to also contribute to the discussion.
Yes, I think it's a bit of a chicken and an egg situation. Because on the one hand, we say we want simplification, but at the same time, we want to keep the 27 different types of rules. And that's why we have an EPPD that it's slightly different, what it means, a B building, a C building in each of the member states, right? And at least for the financing, unless we move on and realize the single capital markets, we will continue discussing these issues. So we do need simpler, but at the same also time, fewer regulations or reporting, etc.
Thank you. Pierluca?
Yes. Thank you. Now, indeed, I wanted to react and give a contribution to a number of this element. I think I completely agree. Huh? I mean, we always get back to this issue of, and whenever we speak about private financing, attracting private financing, the issue remain aggregation, standardization, simplification, if you want, reducing the transaction costs, because if one single NPC contract takes 2 years, it's clear that there is an issue. The tailor-made solution is always important to remember the tailor-made solution, but at the same time, we need to find a way, and that's why I insisted at the beginning, and I think it remains one of the key next step for this project in a certain way, or for these activities, are the aggregation at national level, a regional level, in the sense that I believe that in the moment in which we recognize that there might be some different rules, different interpretation to create that necessary volume, and I agree, I mean, the green bonds issue for me, it remains of volume in the sense this need to be aggregated in order to attract the secondary market interest. And probably, yes, the first step is that this aggregation, be it with technical assistance where minimum criteria for that aggregators are established for a region, for a national context, for a number of cities that want to put effort together, should probably be the first step. I mean, the first step to bring together a sufficient volume of project to develop at a lower transaction cost innovative solution, because it is a transaction cost compared to having complex project for a small volume of overall investment. It is a transaction cost, and this is the way the investor reflect about it, private investor reflect about it. I think on the affordability, I mean, we went a bit away from the public building needs toward affordability of private intervention, which of course is still relevant, but I find it a bit on the side of the main topic. But it's clear that there is a need to better link energy efficiency, energy transition intervention with, of course, the market and the market instrument for energy. I mean, the NPC do exactly that. They want to leverage the energy cost savings to repay the instrument. The contract for difference is mostly applied to renewables, but it ensures that the return of the investment over time. And this is something many member states, not all, have done when they develop they aggregated the distribution grid, in the sense that, you know, in many member states the distribution grid was at local level, then the privatization and liberalization come, not in every member state, and at that point it was clear that cities need to come together, because managing one distribution grid at local level was not really cost effective. And this is something I think when looking at energy efficiency investment on a city's level, it's something similar that needs to be done, because it's clear that one city is alone, except if we speak about Amsterdam, Berlin, the big cities, but smaller, medium to smaller scale cities, especially when they are in proximity, like in the example of Flanders, we know there are many quite medium level cities, but very close together. They can develop solution jointly. And then once this aggregation really takes place, okay, maybe at national level, we can really see what are the issues of standardization and harmonization. And I just wanted to make a note here to send us the barriers on the regulatory framework, which is always very important to take from this project. And that, at that level, I think it's at that point, it's very important that we look at where the harmonization is possible, where is not possible, because at this stage we often get back to speak about that, and but we still don't have that aggregation often at national level or at regional level, or at least not in all member states. Thank you.
Thank you, Pierluca. Unfortunately, we ran out of time, so it would be really nice to stay here another hour. It's always the same. Every time we start a panel discussion, then it's really hard to finish it. But we have another panel coming up, so thank you very much for our speakers, also for the inputs you brought, but not only for that, also for the taking us with you a bit on what you do daily, on your challenges, on what you're working on, and on the enthusiasm you're putting in what you're doing. So thanks a lot. Thank you. And Diana.